Frostpunk the Board game. This is your review for 2. Good day, my name is Joe Gerba. Today we'll be going over Frostpunk the Board game and how it plays with 2 players. So let's light up the generator and talk about the game a little bit. Frostpunk the Board game is a 1 to 4 player cooperative game where you will be building out this settlement based around this generator that's supposedly heating the settlement. You need to put coal in the top of the settlement and add stress to the generator to heat your people. You have to house your people by building certain buildings, expand the initial crater that you start in, place workers to work, make sure they're not cold, send them out on expeditions, keep the hope high, the discontent low, all while trying to make sure your people are fed, make sure your people aren't going to riot in the streets, using anything at your disposal to win the game. So let's see a little bit more how to play. So in Frostpunk the Board game, this game has a little bit of everything. It has some resource management, it has some worker placement, but it is event driven. If you don't like super luck games, this game may not be for you. More on that later. But the general flow in this game, it goes through like a day cycle, what you would expect. Start with the dawn phase, move the round marker over here. The morning phase, you resolve an event. The Ameritrash, get one of like a semi-large event stack and decide. Usually there's 1 to 3 choices on there that may have consequences later in the day. Then the generator phase, so however much you heated the generator last turn, you'll have to put stress on this, and you don't want the generator to get too stressed and put too much coal in it every turn after turn. But you want to heat the settlement enough that people don't get sick from the cold. And you have the weather phase where it's going to be harder and harder to heat the settlement as it gets colder and colder. Some of the buildings, some of the tents that you built at the very beginning of the game, man, it's hard to heat those now. And you do that all, from the generator. You'll be, moving up the heat track as well as keeping track of how cold it actually is. You go on to the preparation phase where you can choose an advisor and deal with any of the sick people you have, which, let me tell you, there's almost no way to get around getting some sick people. If you do, let me know. Then you go into the action phase. This is where the worker placement comes in to play. So you have this pool of workers with some resources, and this is the high planning phase. The other parts are kind of just step by step, do this, resolve this. The action phase is where you get 7 to 10 of your meeples, your workers, your engineers, maybe your children, if you sign the child labor law, up to you, and you place them around the map, hopefully in heated buildings so they don't get cold. If they get cold, they get sick, and you'll be placing them around, gathering resources, trying to optimize what you need for the turn, what you want to get done. Do you want to send people out on expeditions where they may be out there for a while and you can't use them? Do you need to heal your people? Do you need to go to the hunter site? Do you need to feed your people? Do we need more wood? Do we need more charcoal? We always need more charcoal to heat the generator. So in this game, you just can't do it all. You're not building this big fat engine where you're like, beat the game by doing this. You're trying to mitigate any discontent. You're trying to raise the hope, claw your way any way possible to keep your head above water. And that's where the action phase comes in. You'll be putting your workers, doing that building's action, and then moving on. This is kind of the fun phase, the interactive phase, working the cooperation, working with somebody, really trying to see what do we need to get done this round. Then we do move on to the dusk phase where you draw a card. This is where some of the repercussions of the morning phase, any laws that you passed, may be part of the dusk phase, so it can come up again and either bite you in the butt or be, a boon to your society. You move on to the hunger phase. Got to feed your people or they'll rise up in discontent. And then finally the night phase. So at nighttime, you want to make sure that all your citizens have a warm place to sleep, just like you do. So that was kind of the general overview of the game. There's 8 scenarios that come in the game. We actually just beat our first scenario, and we can probably do the review, and I could say in confidence, we've played 6 times, and we finally beat the scenario, so there is a lot of game in the box, and but I'll get to that soon, and let's talk about what I thought about the game. So let's talk about the components. Well, let's get rid of the elephant in the room. This generator, this is cool. When you put stress in there, you drop cubes from the top, and some of them may get stuck, and so there may be some that are stuck in there. You take the cubes that are stressed and you put them on your stress track. But this is a main point of Frostpunk. This is a visual of Frostpunk, the actual video game. That's kind of based around, your civilization is based around this generator, and I'm glad they gave you a big one. Sure, it can be a little bit daunting to look around it, but man, this is cool. All the other components really well done. Cards are good quality, and there are so many components in this game. There are cards here, 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 here. There are meeples here. There are pieces over here. There's so much stuff that they give you in this box. Then we go on to the rules and references. The rules, also a little bit daunting to read. It took me about 45 minutes to an hour to actually read through the rules. However, it's pretty straightforward once you get through, and the references in this game are great and abundant. Every little board has its own references. This, one sheet is awesome. And they also give you 4 of these sheets with actions, and they each have like a different advisor at the top. So if you do play with 4, you give each player one of these sheets, and you can almost walk through, exactly what you're supposed to do. If one person doesn't have anything in the generator phase, somebody else does, and they can read it. So very interactive. For everybody with 2 players, we gave each person, 2 advisors to play with. But references in this game, outstanding. So let's talk about setup. Setup took me, I want to say, 45 minutes by myself. And I don't really want to exaggerate that. I was punching out everything the first time, but getting it to the table for the first time and subsequent times if you put it up, I'd say I could probably set up this game in about 15 minutes if I know what I'm doing, but it'll take me about 20 to, get this back to the table and get it set up. So if you're doing this for a game night, make sure you have this set up and you know the rules to this game. It's kind of hard to do these on the fly, but setup is daunting, and it took all of our 3x6. Every inch of our 3x6 is utilized in this game. Great game, but man, this takes up some space. So let's talk about the gameplay. First, let's go to the most fun part, in our opinion, about the game, and that's the action phase. Just being able to plan your day out. Plan, what am I going to do here? What do we really need to do? Are we, it's like keeping everything in check like a society would. Do we have enough hope? Are people actually happy-ish to be here? Are they going to riot really soon? We know what we've done. We've passed laws. We've made some decisions. What may be coming up in this dust deck? Do we need to, mitigate something? The worker placement part is a lot of fun. Deciding which buildings to build is a lot of fun. Exploring, there's so many neat things, and it's all really in that action phase. Some of the other phases, though, the morning phase, the generator phase, the weather phase, that's when the the opposition kind of punches back at you and says, you think you're doing well? Well, we'll throw this at you. When you reveal a card and it's like, ooh, do I really want to spend a worker for the turn? Or do I want to raise the discontent a little bit? This game has a lot of hard choices. Most of them are bad, but sometimes you get the good one, just like the video game. The video game, there's a lot of hard choices you have to make. Everything has a consequence, and that's how this game really does feel. They did a great job adapting this to a board game, and there's just so much in this game, and there's so much choice, and that's what you need in a cooperative game, is choice, so you can have that social talking with the other person or by yourself if you're playing solo, about what they think we need to do. Maybe they see something that you're missing, or can point out, oh, well, we don't have any coal. We need to heat the generator, or our people are they're gonna be kaput pretty soon. So the gameplay loop in this is a lot of fun, a lot of choices. Is technologies, do you upgrade your buildings so they're hotter? Do you need to clear the stress on the generator? How much coal do we put in? Resource management, worker placement, a lot of decks and cards. Just this game kind of has that cooperative cohesion that you may be looking for in a really big game. So let's talk about the difficulty in this game. This game is difficult. Like I said, it took us 6 times to beat this game. The first time, we didn't make it far at all. The next time, we learned a little bit. And the first time, we were also playing a couple of rules wrong. But, you do a little bit at a time. You're taking small steps and then realize, what you need. You're kind of optimizing for the scenario. Now, like I said, there's 8 scenarios that come in the game-ish. I'll need to look here, but they give you a lot. So each scenario, and I played the second one solo by myself, each one plays a little bit different, so you can't just get used to it and know, well, here's how we win. They give you different societies to set up, so different starting conditions, so the difficulty can either ramp up for your play group, or you can try to play on the normal difficulty. But this game is not easy. If you think you're doing well in one area, the other area is just going to punch you in the face. So this game has a pretty steep difficulty curve. So let's talk about the replayability. The replayability in this game, like I said before, I would say is pretty high. You're probably not going to beat the scenarios on your first playthrough, just discovering new things, deciding what's more important, and just the different societies can really impact play. So I think this has a lot of replayability, and also a lot of that comes into luck for strategy. This game does have a lot of luck. When you draw the morning cards, you decide, if we have this or that, but it usually gives you a decision where the strategy comes into play and, well, can we really afford to do this? Can we really afford to take, a worker meeple and put them there for the turn? Or can I sacrifice, some food this turn to do this other thing, which should have a good benefit? So the luck for strategy, sure, there's a lot of luck, but there's also a lot of, well, I guess we'll sacrifice it for this turn. So I don't know. It has a good balance to me of a little bit of both. So is this game good for 2? And I really like this game for 2. I asked my wife what she thought about it, and she really enjoys this game, with the caveat that this game, each play has taken us about 3 to 4 hours. Now, we do take our time a little bit in games, but at the same time, we're not the slowest. So, 3 to 4 hour per run of this game. So just know what you're getting yourself into, where it's not going to be a quick cooperative game. It's massive on the table, But I think this game plays very well with 2. She does well. Just the back and forth of trying to see what is the better bad choice is just a lot of fun in this game. There's so many things to think about, so many things to do. Placement of tiles is crucial. You don't realize it, but some of the tiles you place at the beginning of the game can have heavy, repercussions later in the game, and you'll learn that, as you play. But the game itself is so thematic mechanics. This happened here, it comes up later, you're like, oh, why did that come up? Well, you may have put those cards in because of your choices. Your choices, whether to feed the people, light the generator, what buildings, everything kind of comes full circle. And that's what makes this really good game. Great adaptation of the, once again, of the video game. There can be an alpha gamer, but at the same time, there's too many things to think about for there really to be an alpha gamer. There's just, you get so much game in this box. Yes, it's expensive. It'll take you 4 hours to play. I guess another small gripe I have was most of the games we played, the last 4 turns kind of had a loop to it, that we didn't get as much action choice as the beginning rounds. And that was mainly because we couldn't go to as many places because it was so cold. We just couldn't light a lot of our stuff. So we ended up doing the same couple actions for the last 4 rounds, 4 rounds out of 12 or 3 rounds out of 12. That was a little kind of gripe where you're like, oh, well, we're just surviving. We're not progressing. But when you look at the end on how much sprawling, the society went, it makes it neat. So gameplay was good. Randomness was enough for me. If you don't like randomness, this game's probably not for you. Cooperation was high. Components are great. Gameplay, 4 hours. A lot to do in this game, a lot to think about, but you really have to have that intimate setting. I think this is a great game for 2. Can't recommend it for everyone because of the playtime, because of the difficulty, but Frostpunk the Board Game is a board gamer's game, and a great adaptation of the video game. But if you're into board games, if you want to dive deep into a thematic game, cooperative game, this game is for you. So hope you guys enjoyed the review, and until next time.